It's important to remember the lessons of the past to build a better future.
My name is Margaret. I am 72 years old. For 6 years, I believed that giving everything meant I would never lose anyone. It was a Tuesday morning in March when I learned I was wrong, not in some grand cinematic way. There was no shouting, no tears, no slamming doors, just the soft clink of coffee cups in my son's kitchen, and my daughter-in-law's voice, casual as mentioning the weather. "Oh, Margaret's coming to help set up. She's just the help now, really. Makes it easier that way." She was on the phone with her sister. I was in the doorway holding the casserole dish I'd driven 40 minutes to deliver, still warm from my oven, still made with the recipe she'd asked me to teach her 3 years ago, the one she never had time to learn. I stood there, steam rising between us like something that used to be solid turning into air. She looked up, saw me, didn't flinch, just smiled that smile I'd mistaken for warmth. "Margaret, you're early. Just set that on the counter, would you? And if you could start on the vacuuming, the Johnsons are coming at 7. I set down the dish. The counter was cluttered with Amazon boxes, things she'd ordered instead of asking me to make. Cheaper that way, probably. Definitely easier. "Actually," I said, and my voice came out steadier than I expected, "I won't be staying." Her eyebrows lifted, just slightly, inconvenienced, not concerned. "But you always help before our dinner parties." That's when I knew, not suspected, not wondered, knew. I had become something useful, not someone loved. "I need to go," I told her, and I left the casserole on the counter. A parting gift, an ending. If you're listening to this from your own quiet kitchen, maybe holding your own coffee cup that no one else will wash, maybe we're not so different. Maybe you've also stood in a doorway and understood, finally, that you can't love someone into loving you back. You can only love yourself into saving what's left. I drove home that day with the windows down, even though it was cold. I needed to feel something real. The wind against my face. The sound of tires on asphalt. The way the world looked when you weren't carrying someone else's expectations. That night, I sat at my kitchen table, the one I'd bought with my late husband 40 years ago, and I made a list, not of what I'd do, not yet. A list of what I'd given. I used to be an accountant, spent 35 years helping other people track their money, watching columns of numbers tell stories about what people valued. Retirement accounts, college funds, the careful accumulation of security. I never once used those skills to add up what I'd given away. Wednesday morning, I opened my filing cabinet. I'm old-fashioned that way. I keep papers, receipts, bank statements going back decades, organized by year in manila folders with tabs I'd written in careful cursive. I made coffee, good coffee, the expensive kind I only made when no one else was there to drink it. Then I sat down with my calculator, my reading glasses, and 6 years' worth of my own generosity. The first entry, $15,000 for my son's business loan when his startup needed capital. "Just temporarily, Mom. We'll pay you back when the investors come through." The investors came through. The money didn't come back. $8,000 for my granddaughter's braces. Insurance won't cover it, and we're stretched so thin. I remembered signing that check, how my daughter-in-law had hugged me, called me the best grandma ever. That was 4 years ago. $3,200 for the water heater that broke on Christmas Eve. "Emergency, Mom, you understand." I did understand. I always did. $12,000 for the down payment on their second car, the SUV my daughter-in-law needed for her consulting business. The business she started with time I gave her by watching the kids every Tuesday and Thursday for 2 years. Tuesday and Thursday, 9 to 5, 16 hours a week, 50 weeks a year, for 2 years. That's 1,600 hours. If I'd been paid minimum wage, that's $11,600. But grandmothers don't get paid. Grandmothers give. The list grew longer. Groceries I bought for their house, the new refrigerator when theirs died, 3 years of property tax on their first house when they couldn't make the payments, just until we get our feet under us. Their feet found solid ground. Mine had been sinking. By noon, I had a number, $127,000. $127,000 over 6 years. Not counting the time, not counting the dinners I cooked, the holidays I hosted, the birthdays I planned while they showed up empty-handed with beautiful smiles, not counting the night my husband died and I called my son 3 times before he answered, voice irritated, telling me he'd call back in the morning because they had company. I stared at that number. I'd been an accountant long enough to know what numbers meant. This one meant I had valued them at $127,000 more than they valued me. No, that's not right. I had valued their comfort at $127,000 more than I valued my own security. There's a difference. I closed the folder, made myself lunch, a good lunch with the nice plates. Then I opened my laptop and created a new spreadsheet. This one wasn't about the past. It was about the future. How much did I have left? How long could it last? What did I need to protect? The afternoon sun slanted through my kitchen window, catching dust motes in the air. Little particles, invisible until the light hits them just right. That's what I'd become, I thought. Invisible until someone needed something, and then suddenly, briefly seen. It was time to take inventory of more than money. It was time to count the cost of being needed, but not loved. If this story resonates with you, I hope you'll share it. Sometimes knowing we're not alone is the first step toward finding ourselves again. The first time was so small. It was 7 years ago, just after my son married Claire. We were at a family barbecue, my sister's house, everyone gathered in the backyard with paper plates and laughter. Claire pulled me aside. New to the family, pretty in that effortless way some young women are. Margaret, she said, touching my arm, I'm so nervous about hosting Thanksgiving. Would you help me? Just this once? Of course I said yes. New daughters need guidance. That's what mothers do. I showed up 2 days early, cleaned her house top to bottom, taught her my mother's stuffing recipe while she took phone calls for work in the next room. Made pies, 3 kinds, because her sister was vegan and her mother was diabetic, and someone's boyfriend had a nut allergy. Thanksgiving Day, I arrived at 6 in the morning to start the turkey. Claire came downstairs at 9, showered and dressed, smelling like expensive perfume. It smells amazing, she said. You're a lifesaver. 18 people came that day. They complimented Claire on the beautiful meal. She accepted the praise with gracious smiles. I washed dishes in the kitchen, listening to her tell her mother, I'm finally learning to cook. It's so fulfilling. I didn't correct her. What kind of mother-in-law corrects her son's wife at Thanksgiving? The year after that, she asked again, would you mind? You do it so well. Then the year after that, she didn't ask anymore. Just texted the date and time, assumed I'd come. By the 4th year, I wasn't invited as a guest at all. I was expected. My car in the driveway at dawn. My hands in the sink at midnight. My turkey, my recipes, my skill presented as hers. The pattern spread like water finding cracks. Every holiday, every dinner party, every family gathering, my son would call, Mom, Claire's stressed about the promotion dinner. Could you make your pot roast? Not asking if I was busy, not offering to buy the ingredients, just assuming my time was theirs to spend. I'd show up, cook, serve, clean. They'd eat and laugh and post photos on social media. #blessed, #family, #grateful. Never tagged me. Grandmothers don't make the photos look young and interesting. The money came in the same slow creep. A loan that became a gift that became an expectation that became an entitlement. Mom still has Dad's life insurance. She's fine. I heard my son say that once, through a door I thought was closed. I'd come early to drop off school supplies I'd bought for my granddaughter. They were in the kitchen discussing whether to buy a boat. We could ask your mom for the down payment. Claire said. She'd do it, my son replied. Not she might. Not should we. Just the flat certainty of someone who'd never been told no. I left the school supplies on the porch. Drove home. Didn't mention what I'd heard. What kind of mother wants her son to know she was eavesdropping? That's how it works, you see. The pattern builds itself from your own silence. Every time I didn't say, actually, I have plans. Every time I didn't say, I'd love to help, but I need you to handle this one yourself. Every time I smiled through being useful instead of asking to be seen. I had become furniture in my own family's life. The couch that's always there to sit on. The lamp that turns on when you need light. Expected, reliable, invisible. Until you're not there. Then suddenly everyone notices the room is dark. That Tuesday in March, when Claire called me the help, she wasn't being cruel. She was being honest. I had taught her to see me that way. I had taught them all. The question was, could I teach them something different? This year I thought, driving home from that kitchen where I'd left my last casserole, I'll try bringing nothing and see who still invites me. Not as help, as family. As me. The first change was my phone. For 6 years, I'd kept the ringer on at all times, available, reachable, ready. My son called at 7 in the morning, 10 at night, middle of the afternoon when he was on his lunch break. I answered every time. Thursday morning, I turned off the sound. Not forever. Not even for long. Just until I finished my coffee. Just until I'd read the chapter in my book. Just until I'd decided I wanted to talk. Instead of being commanded to listen. He called 3 times that day. I saw the notifications appear and vanish. A tiny thrill went through me. Half fear, half something else. Something that felt like the first warm day after a long winter. I called back that evening. He sounded irritated. Where were you? I called hours ago. I was reading, I said. A pause, like he didn't understand the words. Reading. Yes, I'm in a book club now, Tuesdays and Thursdays. I wasn't. Not yet. But I would be. Oh, he said. Then, getting to the point, Claire needs you to watch Emma next Saturday. Her sitter canceled. I can't, I said. The words felt strange in my mouth, like a language I'd forgotten I spoke. I have plans. Another pause, longer this time. What plans? The question hung there. I could feel him waiting for my excuse, my justification, my apology for having a life that didn't revolve around his convenience. Just plans, I said. I'll talk to you soon. I hung up before he could respond. Set the phone down. Stared at it like it might ring again, might punish me for this small rebellion. It didn't ring. The next morning, I went to the bank. My bank, the one I'd used for 40 years, where the tellers knew my name. I sat down with a financial advisor named Patricia, younger than my son, sharp and kind in equal measure. I need to move some money, I told her. Somewhere my family can't see it. She didn't ask why. She'd probably heard stories like mine before, stories of women who gave until they were empty, then wondered why everyone was surprised when they had nothing left. We set up a new account, transferred half my savings. Not to hide it, exactly, just to see it clearly, without the weight of expectation pressing down on every dollar. You might also want to speak with someone about estate planning, Patricia said gently, making sure your wishes are protected. I made an appointment with a lawyer for the following week. Not because I was dying, because I was starting to live. That afternoon, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went to the community center, the one 3 blocks from my house that I'd driven past 1,000 times on my way to my son's place 40 minutes away. There was a flyer on the bulletin board. Watercolor painting for seniors. Wednesdays, 1 meet us 3 p.m. I'd painted once. Before marriage, before children, before life became a list of other people's needs. Watercolors. Landscapes. Nothing remarkable, but it made me feel like someone who could create instead of only serve. I took a photo of the flyer. Walking back to my car, I saw my neighbor Helen working in her garden. We'd lived next to each other for 12 years. We waved, exchanged pleasantries about weather and mail delivery, but I'd never stopped to talk. Always rushing off to my son's house, to the grocery store for their dinner, to the pharmacy for prescriptions I'd pick up because they were too busy. "Helen," I said, and she looked up, surprised. "Your garden is beautiful." She smiled, stood up, brushed dirt from her knees. She was about my age, silver hair pulled back, face lined with years of sun and laughter. "Would you like to see the back?" she asked. I had nowhere else to be, no one waiting for me to arrive with solutions to their problems. No casserole cooling on my counter. No grocery list for someone else's family. "I'd love to," I said. We spent an hour in her garden. She showed me her roses, her tomatoes, her herb garden. We talked about soil and seasons, and the way things grow when you give them the right conditions. "I don't see you around much," she said. "You're always driving off somewhere." "My son's house," I told her. "I help them a lot." "That's kind," she said. Then, carefully, "Do you enjoy it?" No one had ever asked me that, if I enjoyed it, as if enjoyment was something I had a right to consider. "Not really," I said. The honesty felt like breaking a bone that had healed wrong, painful but necessary. Helen nodded. She was repotting a plant, her hands steady and sure. Sometimes the kindest thing we can do for people is let them figure out their own garden. They'll make mistakes, but they'll learn. I thought about that all evening. About gardens that grow wild when no one tends them. About mistakes that teach better than any amount of help. About a woman who'd spent 6 years being the gardener in everyone else's life, while her own plot lay fallow. That night, I signed up for the watercolor class. I joined a book club that met at the library. I started taking my morning coffee on my back porch instead of drinking it in the car on the way to solve someone else's crisis. Small acts, tiny rebellions. The slow, quiet work of remembering that I was a person, not just a resource. And every time my phone buzzed with a request, a demand disguised as a question, I took one full breath before deciding whether to answer. Sometimes I did. More and more often, I didn't. The invitation came in April. Not an invitation, really. An announcement disguised as one. "Family reunion at our house, Memorial Day weekend. You'll host, of course. Aunt Linda and Uncle Joe are coming, plus Claire's family. About 30 people. You know what to do." A text from my son. Casual, certain. I stared at the message for a long time. For 6 years, I had hosted every gathering. My house, my food, my labor. They showed up, ate, left. I cleaned for days before and after. They took photos in my garden, and never once asked if I needed help. Last year, I'd spent $800 on groceries. I'd cooked for 3 days straight. My back ached for a week after. My son and Claire had shown up 2 hours late. Didn't apologize. Spent the afternoon in my living room showing vacation photos from the trip to Cancun. They'd taken with the money I'd loaned them for emergency car repairs. The car repairs that never happened. I set down my phone, made tea, sat at my kitchen table, the morning light coming through windows. I'd washed myself because I'd learned to stop waiting for help that never came. Then I picked up the phone and called my son. "Hi, Mom," he said. I could hear the television in the background, the sounds of his comfortable life. "Did you get my text?" "I did." "Great. So Claire's thinking a barbecue theme, but you know her family doesn't eat pork." "I won't be available," I said. The television continued playing. I heard a commercial for car insurance. Then silence as he processed my words. "What do you mean?" "I mean I won't be available for Memorial Day weekend. I have plans." "But it's the family reunion. You always host." "I know," I said. "That's exactly why I need to stop." I could feel him trying to find the right words. The ones that would make me cave, make me apologize, make me slip back into the comfortable shape of his expectations. "Where are you going?" he finally asked. "Away." "Mom, come on. Be reasonable. We've been planning this for months." "You've been planning it," I said quietly. "No one asked me if I wanted to host." No one asked if I was free. You told me I would do it, and assumed I'd say yes. Because you always do. Yes, I agreed. I do. The admission sat between us. True and terrible. So what changed? He asked. And there was something in his voice I couldn't quite read. Confusion, maybe. Or the first small edge of understanding. I did. This isn't like you, Mom. No, I said. It isn't. Maybe it should have been. Another long silence. I could hear him breathing, thinking, trying to solve this problem the way he solved problems at work. Find the leverage point. Apply pressure. Get the desired result. What are we supposed to do? He finally asked. Not, how are you? Not, are you okay? Not, did we do something wrong? Just, what are we supposed to do without you? You're supposed to figure it out, I said. You're grown adults. You'll manage. But there's 30 people coming. Then I guess you'll need to cook for 30 people. Mom, I don't know how. I didn't know how either, I said. The first time I hosted Thanksgiving, I was 24 years old and terrified, but I figured it out. So will you. I could hear Claire in the background now asking what was wrong. My son's muffled voice, explaining Claire's sharp intake of breath, the rising pitch of her voice. Let me talk to her, Claire said. And then she was on the phone, her tone the one she used with customer service representatives and people who weren't doing what she wanted. Margaret, I don't understand what's happening. Did we do something to upset you? No, I said. And it was true. They hadn't done something. They'd done nothing. For 6 years, nothing. I just need to take care of myself for a while. By abandoning the family? The word hung there, abandoning. As if my absence was abandonment, but their taking was love. I'm not abandoning anyone, I said. I'm just not available to be the help anymore. I heard her sharp breath, knew she remembered. The kitchen, the casserole, her words on the phone to her sister. I didn't mean, I know what you meant, I said, not unkindly. And I'm not angry, but I'm also not coming back to how things were. You'll have to find another way. What if we came to you? My son asked, back on the phone. Would that be better? We could host at your house, do all the work. No, I said, simply, firmly, I won't be here. Where will you be? Somewhere else. I heard Claire in the background, is she serious? And my son, I think so. Mom, let's talk about this in person. Come over for dinner tonight. We'll figure this out. There's nothing to figure out, I said. I'm going away for Memorial Day weekend. I'll be back when I'm ready. You'll have to handle the reunion without me. But we don't know how. Learn, I said. And then, more gently, you're smart people. You'll figure it out. I have faith in you. This is crazy, Claire said in the background. She's being completely unreasonable. Maybe I was. Maybe saying no after 6 years of saying yes was unreasonable. Maybe protecting what little I had left was selfish. Maybe choosing myself was crazy. But I was tired of being reasonable. Tired of being the one who bent and flexed and accommodated while everyone else stood firm. I have to go, I told my son. I love you. I hope you have a good reunion. Mom. I hung up. Set the phone down. Made myself lunch. My hands were shaking, but not from fear. From something else. Something that felt like standing at the edge of a cliff and deciding, finally, to jump. The phone rang 17 times that afternoon. My son, Claire. My cousin Linda, who'd somehow been looped in. Her voice on the voicemail, equal parts concerned and accusing. I didn't answer. I was too busy booking a cabin in the mountains. A place with no cell service, no internet, no way for anyone to reach me unless I wanted to be reached. A place where the only person I'd have to take care of was myself. The cabin sat at the end of a gravel road, surrounded by pine trees that made the air smell clean and green. It had a porch that wrapped around 3 sides, a stone fireplace, and windows that looked out at mountains layered in shades of blue. I arrived on Friday afternoon, 3 days before Memorial Day. The silence was so complete I could hear my own heartbeat. I unpacked slowly, brought my things into the small bedroom, comfortable clothes, books I'd been meaning to read, watercolor supplies for my first class, a journal I'd bought but hadn't written in yet. No dishes to wash that weren't my own, no beds to make except the one I'd sleep in, no schedule except the one I chose. The first morning, I woke to sunlight coming through white curtains. No alarm, no urgent texts. No one needing me to be anywhere but exactly where I was. I made coffee, good coffee, strong and dark, and carried it to the porch. The morning was cool, wrapped in mist that would burn off by noon. Somewhere in the trees, a bird called, clear and insistent. I sat there for an hour. Just sat, held my warm cup, watched the light change. When did I stop doing that? I wondered. Stop sitting, stop watching, stop being still. The answer came easily when being still meant someone else might have to stand up. My phone was inside, turned off. I'd left it that way intentionally. Whatever emergency they thought they had could wait. Or better yet, they could solve it themselves. I spent the morning painting. Not well, not even competently, but the act of it, the way color bled across wet paper, the way I could choose blue instead of green, light instead of dark, it felt like something I'd forgotten existed. Choice without consequence. Creation without criticism. Around noon, I walked into the small town 5 miles down the mountain. There was a cafe, a bookstore, a gallery featuring local artists. I ate lunch alone at a window table, watching people pass. No one knew me. No one needed me. I was just a woman eating soup, reading a book. Anonymous. Free. At the bookstore, I met another woman about my age, reaching for the same novel. Good choice, she said, and we started talking. Her name was Ruth. She lived in the area, taught painting at the community college, had raised 3 kids who were now scattered across the country. Do you see them often? I asked. Twice a year, she said. Christmas and summer. That's enough. They have their lives. I have mine. Don't you miss them? She considered the question, head tilted. I miss who they were, but who they are now. They're adults. They need space to be themselves. So do I. We talked for an hour, sitting in the bookstore cafe. She told me about her art, her garden, her friends, a full life that didn't require her to be constantly available to her children. You look surprised, she said, smiling. I am, I admitted. I thought being a mother meant always being needed. Being a mother means loving them enough to let them learn to stand on their own, Ruth said, even if they stumble, even if it's hard to watch. That evening, I turned on my phone. 63 messages. I didn't read them all, but I scrolled through enough to see the pattern. Day 1, confusion. Mom, seriously, where are you? Call me back. This isn't funny. Day 2, frustration. We need you to tell us your recipes. How do you make the potato salad? Where do you buy the good hamburger buns? Day 3, today, panic. People are arriving tomorrow and we're nowhere near ready. Mom, please, we can't do this without you. There was a long message from Claire. I read that one all the way through. Margaret, I know I said something hurtful. I've been thinking about it, and I'm sorry. That came out wrong. You're not just help, you're family. We need you. Please come home. We'll make it right, I promise. Just don't do this. I set the phone down. Made dinner. Pasta with vegetables I'd bought at the local market, fresh bread. A glass of wine I'd chosen because I liked the label, not because it was on sale. After dinner, I wrote in the journal, not about them, about me. Things I'd forgotten I enjoyed, the smell of rain, reading past midnight, choosing what to eat without considering anyone else's preferences, buying fresh flowers just because they're beautiful, silence without guilt. Things I wanted to do, take more painting classes, learn to garden like Helen, travel somewhere I'd never been, make friends who knew me as Margaret, not as someone's mother or grandmother. Things I'd learned being needed isn't the same as being loved. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is nothing. Teaching someone to survive without you is an act of faith in their capability. My phone rang. My son. I let it ring. Called him back an hour later on my terms. "Where are you?" he asked. He sounded exhausted. "I'm safe," I said. "How's the preparation going?" "It's a disaster. We burned the first batch of hamburgers. Claire tried to make your potato salad and it tasted like glue. Aunt Linda called asking what time to arrive, and we don't even have the yard set up yet." "Sounds like you're learning," I said. "Mom, this isn't funny." "I'm not laughing," I said. And I wasn't. But I wasn't coming to rescue them either. "You're capable people. You'll figure it out. Why are you doing this?" The question I'd been waiting for. The one that mattered. "Because I need to know," I said slowly, "what happens when I stop making everything easy for everyone else. I need to know if anyone will still want me around when I'm not useful." "That's not. Mom, we love you." "Do you?" I asked. "Or do you love what I do for you?" Silence. Long and heavy. "I don't know how to answer that," he finally said. "That's okay," I told him. "Neither do I yet. That's why I'm here." Have you ever had to choose yourself over keeping the peace? Tell me in the comments. Every story lights someone else's path. I didn't go home for Memorial Day. I stayed in my cabin reading and painting and being still. But I heard about what happened. Not from my son. Not at first. From my cousin Linda, who called me Tuesday morning, her voice careful and confused. "Margaret, I need to ask you something. What's going on with you and the kids?" "What did they tell you?" I asked. "Nothing really." "That's the problem. When Joe and I arrived Monday morning, your son and Claire were fighting in the driveway. The yard wasn't set up. There was no food except bags of hamburger meat, and a bowl of something Claire said was supposed to be potato salad, but looked more like wallpaper paste. Despite myself, I smiled. "What did you do?" "We went to the grocery store, bought what we could, helped them set up. But Margaret, the whole day was chaos. Your son tried to grill and burned everything. Claire was snapping at everyone. The kids were running wild. And every time someone asked where you were, they'd get this look on their faces and change the subject." "What kind of look?" "Ashamed," Linda said. "Like they knew they'd done something wrong but didn't want to admit it." She paused. I could hear her thinking, choosing her words. "Claire's mother asked where you were. Your son said you were busy." Her mother said, "Busy? On Memorial Day? The day she always hosts? And your son just walked away." "I'm sorry it was uncomfortable," I said, and I meant it. I'd never wanted to make things hard for extended family, just for my son and Claire to understand. "Margaret," Claire's mother pulled me aside later, "asked if you were sick. Said she'd never seen a family gathering so disorganized, so tense. Asked if something was wrong between you and your son. What did you tell her?" I said I didn't know, because I don't. "What happened?" I took a breath. Told her. Not everything, but enough. The 6 years of being expected. The money given and never returned. The way I'd become invisible unless they needed something. The daughter-in-law who'd called me the help. Linda was quiet for a long time. "I didn't know," she finally said. "I should have noticed." "It wasn't your job to notice," I told her. "It was their job to see me." "What are you going to do?" "I don't know yet," I said, honestly. "But I know I can't go back to how things were." Linda called me again Wednesday. This time her voice was different, firmer. "Claire posted something on Facebook yesterday. One of those grateful for families posts with a photo from the reunion. Margaret, the comments, people are asking where you are. Your friends, neighbors, people from church. Someone asked if you were okay. Claire said you were taking time for yourself. And someone else commented, first holiday she hasn't hosted in 30 years. Must be nice to take a break. Like it was your choice to work for 3 decades and not theirs to let you." What did Claire say to that? She didn't. She deleted the post. I found out the rest from my neighbor Helen, who called Thursday morning. "I don't mean to pry," she said, "but there's a rumor going around about you and your son." "What kind of rumor?" "That you've cut them off. That you're refusing to help anymore." Carol from the book club mentioned it. Her daughter knows Claire. The story, as Helen relayed it, had gotten distorted in the way stories do, but the core was there. I'd left. They'd struggled. People had noticed. Claire's been calling around asking people for your recipes, Helen said. She called Carol's daughter asking how to make a roast. She's apparently trying to host dinner for Claire's parents this weekend and doesn't know where to start. She could call me, I said. I think she's embarrassed. Good, I said, and I meant it. Friday evening, my son called. Mom, I need to tell you something. I'm listening. Claire's parents were here for dinner. It was terrible. The chicken was raw in the middle. The vegetables were mush. Claire was crying in the kitchen. Her mom asked. He stopped. Started again. She asked Claire where I'd been all those years you were hosting. Why you were doing everything while we sat back and let you. What did Claire say? She said she didn't know. And Mom, I didn't have an answer either. I've been thinking about it all week. Why did I let you do everything? Why didn't I help? Why didn't I notice you were tired? Why didn't you? I asked. Not angry, just curious. Because it was easier not to see it, he said quietly. Because if I saw it, I'd have to change. And changing was harder than just letting you keep going. It was the most honest thing he'd said to me in years. Claire wants to apologize, he continued. Really apologize, not just say sorry and move on. She's been thinking about what she said to you, about calling you the help. She meant it, I said. I know, that's what makes it worse. She meant it, and I didn't tell her she was wrong, because some part of me felt that way too. The admission sat between us, ugly and true. Can you forgive us? He asked. Eventually, I said, but forgiveness doesn't mean going back to how things were. I know, he said. I think I'm starting to understand that. They came to me in June, not with demands, not with expectations. They asked if they could visit, asked if I had time, asked if I was ready. I said yes, but not at my house, at the cabin, on my territory. They drove up on a Saturday morning, just the two of them. No children to buffer the conversation, no distractions. I met them on the porch, made coffee, strong and dark. We sat in the morning light, the mountains blue in the distance, and I let them speak first. Claire started, her hands wrapped around her mug, eyes down. I called you the help, she said, and the worst part is, I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. I'd stopped seeing you as a person. You were just there, always there, like the stove or the refrigerator, something that worked when I needed it to. She looked up, and her eyes were red. That's horrible. I know it's horrible. I don't know how to make it right. You can't, I said simply. You can only do better going forward. My son shifted in his chair. I added up the money, he said, everything you gave us over the years. I didn't realize, I knew you were helping, but I didn't know how much. It's over $127,000. I kept good records, I said. We can't pay you back. Not all of it. Not quickly. But we can start. We can set up a payment plan. I don't want you to pay me back, I interrupted. They both stared at me. I don't want the money. I want you to understand what it cost me. Not in dollars. In dignity. In self-respect. In the years I spent being useful instead of being seen. We see you, Claire said. Do you? I asked. Or do you see what you almost lost? The question hung there. I watched them wrestle with it. I don't know, my son finally said. I want to say we see you, but I think we're just starting to look. It was an honest answer, maybe the most honest one possible. We sat in silence for a while, the kind of silence that isn't empty, just full of things that can't quite be said yet. What do you want from us? Claire asked eventually. How do we fix this? You don't fix it, I said. We rebuild it, different this time, better. How? You start by asking instead of assuming, by inviting instead of expecting, by seeing me as someone who has a life, not someone who exists to make your life easier. We can do that, my son said quickly. We will. Can you? I asked. Because it means sometimes I'll say no. It means sometimes you'll have to figure things out yourself. It means I won't always be available, and you'll have to be okay with that. What if we're not okay with it? Claire asked, and at least she was being honest. Then you'll have to learn to be, I said, because this is who I am now, not who I was. We talked for hours about boundaries, about expectations, about what it means to love someone versus what it means to use them, about how help stops being help when it's demanded instead of offered. They apologized again. Better this time, more specific. Not just we're sorry, but I'm sorry for this specific thing, and here's what I'll do differently. But I didn't soften completely, didn't rush to comfort them, didn't assure them everything was fine now, forgiven, forgotten, because it wasn't fine, and I wouldn't forget. Before they left, Claire asked, "Are you coming home?" "I am home," I said. "This is where I'm staying for the summer." "But your house will be there when I'm ready to go back. Right now, I'm exactly where I need to be." "Will you come to dinner?" my son asked. "When you're back, will you still be part of the family?" "I'll always be part of the family," I said. "But on different terms. You come to me sometimes. I come to you sometimes. We share the work, we share the cost. And most importantly, you ask if I want to come before you assume I will." "What if we need help?" Claire asked quietly. "What if something happens and we really need you?" "Then you ask," I said, "and I'll decide. Based on whether I can, whether I want to, whether it's good for both of us, not just whether you need it." They drove away mid-afternoon. I watched their car disappear down the gravel road, dust settling in its wake. I didn't know if they'd really change, if the apologies would last beyond the discomfort, if they'd remember these promises when things got busy and convenient and they needed someone to pick up the slack. But I knew this. I had changed, and I wouldn't go back. 6 months later, fall arrived in shades of gold and red. I'd returned to my house in August, but it felt different now. Not like a staging area for other people's lives, but like a home. My home. I'd planted a garden with Helen's help, enrolled in an advanced watercolor class, joined 2 book clubs and a quilting circle, made friends who knew me as Margaret, who paints, Margaret who reads, Margaret who tells funny stories about her late husband. Not Margaret who'll solve your problems. Not Margaret who's always available. Just Margaret. My son called every week. Sometimes I answered, sometimes I didn't. But when I did, the conversations were different. He asked about my life, what I was painting, what I was reading, who I'd spent time with. He didn't always ask for something. When he did, help with the kids, advice on a problem, a loan they needed, I considered it. Then I answered honestly. Sometimes yes, more often no. The first time I said no after we'd reconciled, I could hear his surprise through the phone. "I can't babysit next Tuesday. I have painting class." A pause. Then, "Okay, we'll figure something else out." No guilt trip, no but you always. Just acceptance. It felt like progress. Claire came to my house in October, asked if she could come, waited for me to say yes, brought good coffee, the expensive kind I liked, sat at my kitchen table without expecting me to serve her. "I've been thinking about the reunion," she said. "Memorial Day. How terrible it was. I heard it didn't go well. It was a disaster. But Margaret, that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was realizing how much you did that I never noticed. How much work it took to make things look easy. I'd lived my whole adult life thinking family gatherings just happened magically. They don't," I said. "I know that now." She paused, choosing words. "I want to host Thanksgiving this year, at our house. Really host it. Cook, clean, plan, all of it. I want you to come as a guest. You don't have to prove anything to me," I said. "I'm not trying to prove anything. I'm trying to learn, and I can't learn if I don't do it myself." I studied her face, saw something genuine there. Fear, maybe. Determination. The willingness to fail in order to grow. Okay, I said. I'll come as a guest. Really? Really. But Claire, if you need help, you have to ask. Not the day before. Not in crisis mode. You ask in advance, clearly, and accept if I say no. Deal, she said. Thanksgiving was fine, not perfect. The turkey was dry, the stuffing underseasoned, the timing off, so everything came out at different times. But Claire did it, my son helped. They both looked exhausted by the end, but also proud. I sat at their table, ate their imperfect meal, and said honestly, "This is good, you did well." "It's not as good as yours," Claire said. "It's better," I told her, "because you did it yourselves." They asked me about the recipes, about tips, about what I'd do differently. I gave advice, but I didn't take over, didn't fix, didn't rescue, just guided. After dinner, washing dishes, Claire said quietly, "It's exhausting." Yes, I agreed. It is. How did you do this for so many years? Because I thought I had to. Because I thought being needed was the same as being loved. She dried a plate, set it down carefully. "I'm trying to do better to see you. But I catch myself sometimes, falling into old habits, assuming you'll say yes, getting frustrated when you don't." "I know," I said. "Change is hard." "Are we doing okay?" she asked. "You and me? Are we going to be okay?" I thought about it, gave her the truth. "I think so. Not the way we were before, but maybe something better." Christmas came with new rules. We rotated houses. 1 year at my son's, 1 year at mine, 1 year somewhere neutral. No one person did all the work. No one person paid for everything. We shared. Sometimes it was messy. Sometimes feelings got hurt. Sometimes my son forgot to ask instead of telling, and I had to remind him. Sometimes Claire slipped back into expecting instead of appreciating. But they were trying, and I was holding firm. My granddaughter Emma turned 12 in January. She asked if she could come stay with me for a weekend, just the two of us. "What do you want to do?" I asked her. "I don't know. What do you do?" I showed her. We painted together, went to the bookstore, made cookies we actually wanted to eat instead of cookies for a bake sale, sat on my porch in the cold air wrapped in blankets, watching birds. "Grandma," she said, "why don't you come around as much anymore?" I thought about how to answer, settled on truth, simple enough for 12 years old to understand. I was spending so much time taking care of everyone else that I forgot to take care of myself. I had to step back to remember who I was. "Are you mad at us?" she asked, voice small. "No, sweetheart, I'm not mad. I'm just learning to be myself instead of just being helpful." "Can you be both?" "Yes," I said. "But I have to be myself first. Being helpful comes after that." She thought about this, serious and considering. "I think I understand, like how mom says I can't help others if I don't help myself first." Exactly like that. Before she left, she hugged me. "I like this version of you, Grandma. You seem happier." Out of the mouths of 12-year-olds, I thought. Truth, that simple, that clear. I was happier. Not because I didn't love my family, but because I'd learned to love myself too. It's October again. A year since Claire came to my kitchen and asked to host Thanksgiving. 2 years since I walked away from that casserole and never looked back. I'm sitting on my back porch, morning coffee beside me, watercolor paper drying on the table. The garden is ready for winter. Helen and I spent yesterday mulching the roses, covering what needs protecting, letting go of what's meant to die back and grow again in spring. That's the thing about gardens. They teach you about cycles, about rest and growth, about how sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let something go dormant so it can come back stronger. My life is quiet now, not empty. Quiet. There's a difference. I see my son and his family twice a month, sometimes more if there's a special occasion. But I'm not there every week, every day, every time they need something. I have my own life to tend. I take 3 classes at the community center, watercolor, tai chi, and memoir writing. I'm learning to put words to the things I've lived, to see patterns I missed when I was inside them, to understand that my story matters, not because of what I gave up, but because I finally chose to take something back. My friend Ruth and I meet every Thursday for lunch. We talk about art, about our children who are busy with their own lives, about the strange freedom of being old enough to stop apologizing for taking up space. Do you miss it? Ruth asked me last week. Being needed all the time? I thought about it honestly. Sometimes there's a part of me that still wants to fix things, to make everything easier for everyone. But I've learned to let that impulse pass like a wave. It comes, it goes, and I stay standing. What's the hardest part? She asked. Watching them struggle, I said. Knowing I could make it easier but choosing not to. Trusting that the struggle is teaching them something they need to learn. And the best part? I smiled. Everything else. My son called this morning. Mom, Emma wants to enter a painting in the school art show. She wants to know if you'll help her. Put her on, I said. Emma's voice, excited and nervous. Grandma, I want to paint something like what we did, with the watercolors. But I don't know if I'm good enough. What do you want to paint? I asked. Birds, like the ones we watched on your porch. Then paint birds. I'll come over Saturday, and we'll work on it together. But Emma, you'll be doing the painting. I'm just there to guide. But what if I mess up? Then you'll learn something. That's what messing up is for. After I hung up, I sat with my coffee and thought about that. About learning. About the ways we grow only when we're allowed to fail. I used to be called Mom, Grandma, Margaret, who will help. A collection of roles, a list of functions. No one asked what I wanted to be called. No one asked who I was underneath the giving. Now I'm just Margaret, an artist still learning. A friend, a woman who wakes up each morning and decides how to spend her time based on what feeds her soul, not just what depletes her bank account. Some people think what I did was selfish. I've heard the whispers. She abandoned her family. She cut them off over nothing. What kind of mother chooses herself? I think about my daughter-in-law's word, abandoning. How leaving yourself behind is never called abandonment. How we praise women who sacrifice everything and criticize those who save something for themselves. But I've learned this. Some hearts only stay warm when you wrap them around yourself first. You can't give heat you don't have. You can't love others from an empty well. The sun is higher now, burning off the morning chill. I have places to be today. Tai Chi at 10, lunch with Helen, painting class at 3. A full life that exists independent of anyone's need for me. Tomorrow, Emma's painting lesson. Next week, dinner at my son's house where I'll arrive as a guest and leave before the dishes are done because someone else will wash them. This is what healing looks like. Not dramatic, not perfect. Just the slow, steady work of reclaiming yourself one boundary at a time. One no that protects instead of yes that depletes. If you're hearing this story from your own kitchen, holding your own cooling coffee, wondering if it's too late to choose yourself, I want you to know something. It's not too late. It's never too late to stop being what everyone needs and start being who you are. It's never too late to say, this is what I can give, this is what I need to keep. These are my terms now. It's never too late to understand that being loved and being used might look the same for a while, but they don't feel the same. One fills you, one empties you, one asks, one demands. My daughter-in-law said I was just the help. She meant it as a dismissal, but I heard it as a revelation. I'm not the help. I'm not the solution to everyone's problems. I'm not the endless well that never runs dry. I'm a woman who painted this morning, who'll have lunch with a friend this afternoon, who'll teach her granddaughter something she herself is still learning, that your first responsibility is not to be needed, but to be whole. That's not abandonment. That's survival. That's grace. That's coming home to yourself. Thank you for staying with me through this story. If you know someone who might need to hear it, please share. And remember, it's never too late to save a seat for yourself.